Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that video that I last put out and saying how we're going to start attacking the Republicans now? Well, that's what we're doing now. So let's make sure that that the Republicans face the scrutiny. We kick these Republicans out and then potentially jail them as well because they're breaking the Second Amendment. You know, we all want to say, hooray, the Democrats, they're evil too. Yeah, they're evil. Yeah, well, guess what? We also know the Republicans are evil. There's 14 of them. And they don't seem to be respecting any of our rights, including the Democrats. They are what we call the rhinos. And we're going to be just going through exactly what these so-called rhinos are and dealing with them post-haste. Well, without further ado, we have here, this is the upvote update. Now, guys, I did post this video, this report before on the last video that I had. However, I also have some more up-to-date stuff as well on a different view on this, so stay tuned. But I wanted to go over this because this was not exactly expressed on the video that I was putting on, because that was a completely different topic with a completely different set of issues that we have back then. So what we're going to do now is go over this specific topic and explain and show exactly who are the issues of our actual rights here. At least 14 Republicans are expected to help pass the bill. Here they are, so you can primary them. Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, Lindsey Graham as Carolina, John Cornyn, Texas, Thom Tillis in Carolina, North Carolina, Susan Collins, Maine, Liz Murkowski, Alaska, Bill Cassidy, Louisiana, Roy Blunt, Missouri, Richard Burr in North Carolina, Rob Portman, Ohio, Shelley Capito, Virginia, Johnny Ernest, Iowa, Todd Young, Indiana, and Mitt Romney, Utah. Well, we have what we will have here: red flag laws provides grants for state crisis intervention programs. Red flag laws source, which is the Senate Gov, where we will go directly here, and then individuals targeted under the provisions have a right to defense. Senate to government. However, the bill states the right to be represented by counsel at no expense to the government. There must be penalties for abusing these systems. Source. Regarding domestic violence, the bill clarifies what constitutes a dating relationship, institutes a 3-day waiting period for an investigation. This can be expanded to 10 days. Background checks will include juvenile and mental health records. Tightens regulation and increases punishment for those trafficking weapons or performing straw purchases. Source. It also includes billions in unnecessary and unrelated spending. So, here's what we have here. And here's what we're going to give it to you, ladies and gentlemen. So, we have, it is about 80. Now, you guys know the rules here and what I do. I put all this information, obviously, on the, in the description so you guys can view, but we briefly go over some of this stuff so that way everybody can see and all that stuff. So, I'll go over it briefly, but I'm not going to go over the full thing because I always put this in the description for people to see. Take, not from my words, but you can actually say for yourselves. Division in Mental Health and Firearms Preventions, Title Children and Family Mental Health Services. And then we have a few other stuff here, which is pretty much it. Medicaid and telehealth, and the discussion draft. And then we also have this, a bill, a short title, we table of contents. So we have here. So there's not much to be really gained from here. There's a little bit slightly different, 80. Well, exactly the same thing, honestly. But there's not too much happening here. I will go into the actual Hill source and kind of see what's going on there because it can be expanded for 10 days. Some of these things can be here. See, all this stuff will be expanded here on the sources through all this bill on which can be expanded, etc., and all this stuff. So go ahead and view this at your leisure. However, we're going to go into the Hill, where here are the 14 GOP senators who voted to advance gun safety bill. The Senate on Tuesday broke through nearly 30 years of stalemate on gun control legislation by voting 64 to 34 to advance an 80-page gun safety bill to respond to the mass shootings in Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas that led 31 people dead, including 19 school children. Again, we know the story here, all right? We already know the full story, and it has nothing to do with actual gun control at all, or guns at all. It's the complete incompetence of the police chief and the police there. So it has nothing to do with guns. The people that try to go and save their kids were prevented, and etc. We know the story there. The Senate voted to proceed to the bill just more than an hour after negotiators unveiled its text, giving lawmakers little time to digest its details. The bill had strong momentum after a group of 10 Republican senators, led by Senator John Cornyn, Texas, who has an A-plus rating from the NRA earlier this month, signed into a bipartisan framework of principles with 10 Democrats. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell gave the effort another boost last week when he announced that he supported the bipartisan framework and would also support legislation based on his key points. Every Senate Democrat was expected to support the bill, even though it didn't include more far-reaching reforms that many of them, such as the bans on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and universal background checks. The vote shakes up the politics of the gun violence debate in Congress, as many Republicans who voted to proceed to the bill have A or A-plus NRA ratings. Here are the 14 Republicans who voted yes. Cornyn is a senior member of the Senate Judiciary Committee who negotiated with Senator Chris Murphy last year on legislation to expand background checks for commercial sellers, but without success. Cornyn scored one of the few notable accomplishments on gun violence legislation in recent years when he co-authored and helped pass the Fix NICS Act in 2018. The legislation required federal agencies to produce plans for uploading all relevant information to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. McConnell trapped Cornyn to lead to the negotiations for Republicans shortly after a bipartisan group of senators met in Murphy's basement to begin talks in the hope of finding a way to respond to the Buffalo and Uvalde shootings. Cornyn has an A-plus rating from the NRA, and McConnell has praised him for knowing more about gun safety policy than anyone else in the Senate GOP conference. Senator Mitch McConnell showed his interest in passing a bill to respond to the violence in Buffalo and Uvalde when tapped Cornyn to lead the negotiations with Democrats. A Republican senator close to McConnell said the leader's decision to task Cornyn with the job showed that he wanted to get a positive result. McConnell later said as much when speaking to reporters this month, "I am hopeful that we could come up with a bipartisan solution that's directly related to the facts of this awful massacre," he said in late May. McConnell announced last week that he would support the gun safety bill if it hewed to the bipartisan framework endorsed by 10 Republicans and 10 Democratic senators on June 12th. McConnell also has an A-plus rating from the NRA. Tennis made up the core negotiating group along with Cornyn and Democratic Senators Chris Murphy D-Con. He was initially seen as skeptical toward gun safety legislation when early on during the debate he raised concerns about red flag legislation, but once Cornyn and McConnell brought him into the talks, he turned out to be a valuable asset to the negotiations. Tillis viewed as a good political barometer of the Republican Party, and his support for the framework likely encouraged other Republicans to sign on. He has an A NRA rating. At this point, I don't really care what the NRA is, because obviously the NRA is not doing a very good job of protecting our fucking rights as they should be. They shouldn't really go past. Honestly, they shouldn't have to go past the Supreme Court or anything or what have you, because honestly, it's complete violation of the Second Amendment. I don't know how this is even remotely proposed at all. Collins is one of the principal Democrats in the Senate, and she attended the first meeting in Murphy's hideaway in late May. Collins was particularly active in the talks to combat illegal straw purchasing and firearms trafficking. She introduced the Stop Illegal Trafficking and Firearms Act in April of last year. Collins has a B rating from the NRA. Graham was co-sponsored legislation with Senator Blumenthal D-Con in 2018 to amend the federal criminal code to authorize and establish procedures for a family member of or law enforcement officer to request a court order to take away a firearm from someone judged to pose a risk to himself or others. Graham attended the first meeting of the bipartisan group in Murphy's hideaway and said afterward that he supported legislation to create incentives for states to administer red flag laws if they chose. Graham has an A rating from the NRA. Cassidy on the mental health component of the gun safety bill and participated in the bipartisan discussion in Murphy's office via telephone. Cassidy is building a reputation for himself as a bipartisan deal maker. He signed a statement last year endorsing a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure framework, which paves the way for the deal eventually passing. He's not up for re-election until 2026. Cassidy has an A rating from the NRA. So, you guys are pretty much getting exactly what is going on here. These are all the Republicans that are in cahoots with these things that are going on. Now, all these guys have some type of work or deal with the Democrats, and this is a huge problem. Now, I don't know how far this will actually go. Now, in all honesty, it is a huge violation of the Second Amendment, but these are the people that we have to be careful of, all right? So, I will continue on to the report, but I want to give a little bit of break of this, where we see the huge issues onto the problems that we have with these Republicans. Now, everybody, including myself, I think will probably like so Lindsey Graham, which is, we all know is an evil son of a bitch that needs to go away, and how we seeing these people as all they are. Now, I will post these guys exactly as I see fit, because they need to be shown. But again, these red flag laws are a huge problem, because they can deem you as completely unfit to not get to essentially not own a firearm, and they can just say you're just unfit mentally and just not give you one. So I mean, at the end of the day, these are the Republicans that are with cahoots with the Democrats that are specifically not in favor for obviously our Second Amendment rights. They also want control as well. So, that being said, we are going to stop these people and remove them from whence they came. These people are a huge problem. Now, I will say that Nick is going to have a field day with this one. So I would really like to talk to him if I can ever get the chance to, and if he ever responds to his comments about this whole situation. But yeah, on to the further ado with this. I will finish it because I don't want to just blue ball you guys halfway in. Blunt is a chairman of the Senate Republican Committee and a close ally of McConnell's. He's not as moderate as the other Republicans who signed into the bipartisan framework on gun safety principles earlier this month. McConnell's desire to get a result on gun safety legislation may have helped Blunt vote yes. He's retiring from Congress at the end of the year. Blunt has an A rating from the NRA. Good. Let's he's gone, so let's put in somebody else that will actually, represent the Americans. Burr is another McConnell loyalist who is retiring from Congress at the end of this year. Notice how a lot of these people are retiring at the end of the year, where they get to put in these horrible abuse of the Second Amendment type stuff in place while they're retiring, so they can't get flamed. Yeah. So this is they're cowards. They're Democrats in disguise, is what I would say. He also signed into the bipartisan framework of principles released on June 12th. He has an A place. Okay. I'm going to stop saying this, because this is only pissing me off, and it's really not helping. Romney has emerged with Collins and Senate Lisa Murkowski as the three most likely Republican swing votes in this Congress. He voted twice to convict former President Trump on impeachment charges. Yep, another one of those cucks. Romney kept his involvement in the discussion pretty low profile, but he signed on the bipartisan framework. He played a prominent role in negotiating last year's bipartisan infrastructure bill, and earlier this year hashed out a compromise with Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer on a $10 billion COVID relief package. Of course he did, because why not? He's one of the biggest bipartisan units in the Senate and has an I don't care rating. Portman was one of the 10 Republican senators who endorsed the June framework along with 10 Democrats. He's an advisor to McConnell's leadership team and will retire from Congress at the end of the year. They're all retiring. Portman was one of the lead negotiators last year's partisan infrastructure bill. Most recently has emerged on the Senate's leading champion for supporting Ukraine's fight against Russia's invasion. Capito was one of the 4 surprise Republican voters votes for proceeding to the gun safety bill. Tuesday evening, Capito did not endorse the June framework, and when asked about it, said she would have to review the detail of the legislative text before rendering an opinion on whether she would support or oppose the bill. Capito is also an advisor to McConnell's leadership team, and her home state colleague, then Joe Manchin, was an early participant in the bipartisan discussions responding to the violence in Uvalde. Ernest didn't endorse the bipartisan framework when it was first unveiled this month, and also said she wanted to review the legislative text before making a decision. Ernest is a member of McConnell's leadership team as a vice chairman of the Senate Republican Conference. She was also seen as possible yes vote as she signaled willingness to consider raising the minimum age for buying an AR-15 rifle to 21. And now, Murkowski was viewed as a mysterious vote heading into a floor consideration of the gun safety bill. Murkowski deflected reporters' questions about the various gun safety proposals in recent weeks by saying he was focused on the other issues. She played a leading role in negotiating last year's one training and infrastructure bill and isn't afraid to break with the majority of her conference on big votes. She famously opposed Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation in 2018 and voted to impeach Trump for inciting insurrection last year. Murkowski is up for re-election in November, but she has built a political base for herself in Alaska that includes many moderate Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. Young was one of the biggest surprises on emerged Tuesday after he voted to proceed to the legislation. He's a former member of McConnell's elected leadership team as someone who chaired the National Republican Senatorial Committee in 2019 and in 2020. Young has a pragmatic streak, knows that showing independent voters and suburban women two key electoral blocks that Republicans know how to govern is good politics in general elections. So Young is a former Marine Corps intelligence officer and has a... So, these people are a huge problem. We know of these. These are the 14 people, and these people need to be voted out and removed. Unfortunately, almost half of them are practically retiring because they're cowards. But again, let's put in people that are going to actually repeal this bill and not put in those red flag laws in. This video has gone on long enough, guys. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.